Welcome to the first episode ever of the LAN Partners podcast. My name is Connor, and I'm here with Switch super fanboy Dave,
Hello, hello.
and a guy who loves a good single-player game, Matt.
Hello.
See, the thing about this podcast is it's not like the other podcasts that I listen to where most of them talk about all the current games that, are out this week and last month. I like to play a lot of games that came out 2 or 3 years ago. It's like what I like to do a lot of the time is I will buy 2 or 3 used games at GameStop, play those, trade them back in, and then maybe I'll get a newer game, play that, trade that back in, and it's kind of just a cycle where I don't have time to be playing all those big title games that everyone's talking about right now. I like to play the games that everyone was talking about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So this podcast is just designed for that person very similar to us that works their full-time job, has a family, comes home, may not have time to, put 5 hours into a game that night where they're taking 3 months just to beat a 15-hour game. So we're going to talk a lot about those kind of titles. In our first episode, we're going to hit on a few things. We're going to hit on talking about Nioh, which came out a few months ago. Matt and I played through that game. We have some things to say about that. Dave has a Switch, and he owns NBA Playgrounds. Him and I got to play that over the weekend. Is it the next NBA Jam? We'll find out. And Matt's going to tell us a little bit about Persona 5. He's been playing that. It's a long game, so he's nowhere close to being done. Talk a little bit about the Switch, get into some news, and then close it out with a list. So, Matt, let's kick it off with some Nioh. Here's the thing about Nioh. It designed itself around being very similar to Dark Souls and Bloodborne, where it kind of hindered it for me because I had the expectation that I'm about to play a game just like that, where, as you know, it's not like that at all, right?
Right.
So,
And I think side note is that we love Bloodborne and Dark Souls, so the pedestal was very high when we saw a game like Nioh coming out because we immediately obviously compared it to those games.
Yeah, and that's the thing with those games that when I bought Nioh, it was already a 10 out of 10 without even me putting in the disc tray. And that was probably my fault. And Nioh didn't deserve that, but that's from playing the demo last year when it came out, like I was just, my world was rocked by that demo. And when I actually got to play Nioh, here's where it lost me. So Matt and I, we played the Dark Souls series together. We played Bloodborne together. If you've played Dark Souls or Bloodborne, what happens is you can summon each other into each other's worlds where, like, hey, Matt, let's play through my world. Let's beat the boss. I'll go back and then beat the boss for you. And we just take turns trading off. In Nioh, what they do is one of you has to beat the world or that level by yourself before you can even... How is it, Matt?
You have to beat the level by yourself so that you're able to summon or go into someone else's world that needs help with that level that you just beat.
Right. So in order for you and I to play together, one of us would have to beat the level with someone else or by ourselves in order to... I mean, that just takes the fun out of it completely. And
Terrible.
I've read a lot of forums of people saying, like, as soon as they got to that point, they're like, this is enough of this game. I'm not playing this. And, that was a huge point for me where I was just not enjoying it at all as much as I would a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne.
You can't take a page out of Dragon's Crown when it comes to multiplayer games. You got to take a page out of something a little more accessible, I'd say.
So. Yeah, we'll talk about Dragon Crown another time, but it's a dark issue.
Very similar experience.
So with Nioh, that was a huge game breaker. Another massive game breaker for me is the thing that I love about Bloodborne and Dark Souls is the exploration. I love to get put into a world and kind of just figure out where I'm supposed to go. Not really anything holding my hand or telling me like, hey, go this way, because there's a lot of times in Bloodborne and Dark Souls where you get to a fork and it's either go left or go right. One way you're probably going to get killed, and the other way you'll probably get killed too. And Nioh doesn't give us that.
No, Nioh goes with just the more traditional kind of linear level design, and there's actual levels. It's not an open, free-roaming world like Bloodborne or Dark Souls is. It's okay, I beat this level, takes me back out to the map, and then I go to the next level. So that was something that we had an issue with as well, because we lost. What you were saying is that kind of that sense of exploration, sense of, oh, maybe I should come back to this part later because this is really hard, or just those challenges that we faced in those games that we loved about them was kind of lost with Nioh.
I mean, how many times, Matt, were we playing like Bloodborne or Dark Souls and we take a turn and we're like, I don't know where we're going, but this isn't good, and
Yeah.
30 minutes will go
Right.
by and we haven't seen a bonfire or a boss or anything, and we're just in no man's land. That never happened with Nioh. Never. It was, if I took
No.
a turn, I knew that I was either just taking a little detour that would get me an extra item, or I was going straight to the boss, and it just took all the incentive to be an explorer in that game out of it because it was so linear.
Yeah, and I think the problem with Nioh too was that when we're going into these levels by ourselves, they were pretty manageable up until you would get to the boss fight, and then some bosses were easier than others, obviously, but then you get to those ones that just really held you down, died 20 plus times, getting frustrated. And that was when we got frustrated because we're like, I wish we could be able to work together and beat this boss together instead of just talking to each other about how hard and impossible this boss is.
Yeah.
But
there were several nights where I was at my breaking point because all I wanted to... Oh, speaking of, I didn't even talk about the summoning. The other issue with the summoning was you had these, what were they called? Something cups.
Yeah, like Okachi cups or something.
Something like that. Something cups where it worked a lot like the Bloodborne and Dark Souls summoning where you put it down and then you could summon somebody. They were so limited on the amount of these cups that you can get that you had to really pick and choose when you wanted to summon somebody, and that pretty much, I was at the point about 30 hours in where I'm like, I don't even want to finish this game.
You almost stopped.
I was at the breaking point. Like, Bloodborne and Dark Souls never led me to that point because I felt like I always had a chance.
Right.
But Nioh, I felt like I had no chance at times. There was just absolutely no chance. So, yeah, with Nioh, overall, when we first played it, I gave it a 7. You gave it a 7.5. Where was the difference with you and me on the 7.5 compared to the... I know it's not a big difference, but obviously you had a little bit more enjoyment than I did.
I think what happened was the way it turned out, and I don't know where things went which way, but I know that you definitely had much more of a struggle for whatever reason than I did with like getting past bosses. And it just came down to luck because we got to the point where we were both just summoning random strangers because we couldn't summon each other. And, I would get lucky and get someone who was actually pretty good and they'd help me beat the boss and I'd be able to move on. And then, either I'd go back and help you or you would be stuck trying to summon other people and they weren't helping you out. They kept dying and it just made it really hard for you. And I think I just didn't have as much of a frustration with it wasn't even as much of a challenge. It just felt unfair at times, I think, for you.
Yeah, it did. I felt very unlucky at times. And there was plenty of things that Nioh did well. Like, from our discussion right now, people are, you could be thinking, like, what do they, 7? Sounds like he hates the game. But the combat was fun. The upgrading the weapons was fun. There was a lot of positives.
Yeah,
but
I did like that.
The thing that I was looking forward to the most was playing with you and the exploration. And they did not deliver on that front. And that's really where it kind of ruined it for me. I don't know where magazines and gaming websites were. I don't know what game they were playing when they gave it 9s. I really don't.
Yeah, that threw us off too, I think, because we were so hyped for it, and then it just didn't work out that way for us.
Well, if it was IGN, they might have been playing it on the Vita because that is the superior
gaming
console of the ages. So, that right away, that's an 8 minimum.
Yeah, just the remote play.
Yeah, that remote play though, PS Vita.
Yeah, that choppy remote play. So that was Nioh. So Dave owns a Switch, which we'll get into. But I was able to play NBA Playgrounds with him over the weekend. Dave, what do you think about NBA Playgrounds?
You know what? I've been going back and forth on it. Back when we played it, I was totally on the NBA Playground, the bandwagon. I'm like, this game is great. I'm just excited to get my hands on anything really. Anything
let me interject real quick, Dave.
Here.
Here's why
Yeah.
you liked it, because you were 14 for 14 from 3-point land.
Yeah, that helped. I think just being really good at something just makes you feel like it's the greatest game. I agree, but it's a big mix of NBA Jam and NBA Home Court. If you ever played those games, the Jam series, I'm a big fan of. I love them. I had like every single one, like from Sega all the way up to like the Xbox 360 released an NBA Jam, and I got that one. And Home Court was also on the 360, and I really enjoyed that game as well. It wasn't quite as flashy as Jam. It had more of like a realistic vibe, and it was a little bit slower pace. So I think it's a good mix of both. Stealing is incredibly prevalent in this game versus other games. Like if you get a guy who's good, oh yeah, if you get a guy who's got a good steal rating, I mean, this ball is just going to be flying back and forth. You're going to think you're playing tennis half the time because this ball's just flying everywhere. You're trying to figure out where this thing's going to go next so you can get it. The character unlocking system is the card packs. I really started, I think, hating card pack unlockable stuff back when Halo 5 decided they were going to go to card packs and their whole microtransaction system for the rec packs and everything like that. And I'm not a big card pack person. This one doesn't bother me as much, but too many duplicates for a game that's $20, and I'm getting duplicates of players that I don't even care about and I don't even know. Like, give me LeBron, give me like Steph, like give me someone. Don't give me Dirk Nowitzki in 3 repeats. If I'm opening a pack of cards.
When we played, when I played with you just over the weekend, I mean, it was every pack had at least 2 repeats out of 5 cards.
Oh, for sure. At least 2. And then there was that one, I don't know if you remember it, but we had 3 repeats and then 2 new cards. And both new cards were like practically sixth men on different teams who barely made it into the game because obviously they couldn't throw enough money at J.R. Smith to get rights to him in the game. But that's another story.
And no Steve Nash. That's pretty game-breaking.
Yeah, that hurts. It definitely hurts. They're missing some good legends, but I don't want to bash it too much. I enjoy the game. I like the experience and leveling up system. I like that when you level up, you get a new card pack. I like that you don't have to pay money for experience. There's no like microtransaction nonsense that really irritates me in games. I mean, I don't know. How did it compare to Jam for you? I don't know. It to me, it felt like a totally different game.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Jam replacement. Jam just has way more of an arcadey feel where you're jumping up in the air, the ball's on fire, and all this crazy stuff is going on, and and it didn't seem like that. It seemed I'm not going to say realistic, but it seemed to be a little bit of a slower game than NBA Jam.
Yeah, I know you did not like the power-ups where if you release a shot with perfect timing, it actually adds an extra point to wherever you're shooting from. So, for those of you who haven't played it, like if you shoot a 3-point shot, but you release it at the perfect time and there's no meter that tells you what the perfect time is, you just kind of have to get a feel for which players you can shoot best with. So, Connor tried to play with Dirk Nowitzki and couldn't bury a shot if his life depended on it. But then you switch to John Stockton and you're getting +1s all over the place. So you're hitting 4-point shots instead of 3-point shots. And I know that you were not a big fan of that.
Well, in my defense, Dirk did that crazy like signature move where he stepped forward then stepped back, and like I could not get the timing down for the
razzle dazzle. You could not handle the razzle dazzle.
So what would you give Playgrounds, Dave?
I see, and I just have to compare it to Jam in Home Court because that's what you have to compare it to because that's what's out there that's kind of in the same ballpark, pun intended. And I think that I'm gonna give this thing. If Jam is like an 8, I'll give this one a 7. Okay. I'd still play if there's a new NBA Jam coming out. I'm buying that one, and I'm probably willing to pay $30 for that one. And I know that it's going to have more unlocked players to start with, instead of just like the 8 that you get right away in this game. And I know that there's going to be a lot more players that I recognize and connect with right off the bat. So
if it's good for if you're desperate for an arcade game, NBA Jam-ish kind of, it's a good replacement for now.
Yeah.
So Matt, what real quick, some impressions on Persona 5? I know you're only a couple hours in, but what do you think? Just in a footnote.
Yeah, I'm about 20 hours in. I love it so far. I know there's a long road ahead, so that's why I'm kind of pacing myself a little bit. But I mean, it's everything you come to love. I mean, if you haven't played Persona before, it's it's like a part life simulator. You're a high school kid, you have your friends and get to explore the towns. And I think Persona 5, you're in Tokyo, so you get to walk around some of the streets of Tokyo. You can get a job, you can go out with friends, things like that. And then there's obviously the kind of dungeon crawling aspect of it, where the whole point is, you're trying to take away someone's desire. It's a negative desire, so you're trying to change their heart, trying to change how they see things, how they are as a person, because they're doing something that's very bad. So the whole point is to get to the boss in each dungeon, and then once you beat them, you change their heart, you take away that desire that they had. So I love it. It's kind of classic RPG, turn-based battling system. The personas, it's kind of got a little similarity to like Pokemon, where you collect these personas and they each have different attacks and abilities and weaknesses and strengths and things like that. So it's a slow moving game, obviously, because most reviews are saying it's about 100 hours to completion. So
Yeah, I haven't heard anything less than like 100 hours.
yeah, so I'm about 20% through, which is kind of jarring to think about, I guess. But I love it so far. The gameplay is great. I love the relationships, and the dialogue has been really good so far. So it's been going really well. We'll see if I can keep it up for the next 80 hours.
Yeah, we'll have to get updates on you each week.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the big elephant in the room, and that's the Nintendo Switch. Two of the three people do not have a Switch and do not plan on having a Switch. And Matt, why don't you have a Switch? And what is your turn off from the Switch right now?
I don't have a Switch. I think the reason is basically it just comes down to the games right now for me. I love the Switch as hardware. I love what it can do, what it's meant to do, and I hear it does it very well. I just don't have any interest in any games that are out right now. I know Zelda's the big one, but I also have a Wii U, so I actually played Zelda on my Wii U, which I know it runs a little bit better, a little bit cleaner on the Switch, but I had an amazing experience on it with my Wii U, so I'm not regretting that purchase at all. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the games. There's just nothing out right now that I'm looking into enough for me to spend, $350 on it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So now let's get the flip side of that, Dave. Why do you have a Switch?
Wow. Why wouldn't I have a Switch? Let me ask you a question here. How many times has it been where you had like 10 minutes to game and you're like, what can I even play? If I turn on my PS4 right now and load up a game, there goes 5 minutes. Like, then I'm gonna have
5 minutes,
to play.
please.
What am I gonna do if I'm playing Grand Theft Auto? Good Lord, like there's another 20 minutes watching that loading screen. So you cannot possibly play. But now the Switch. Let me get to the Switch. So the pros of this thing, you can play it in 10-minute bursts. It is easy to pick up and play. The Joy-Con, I know our buddy Tony, he talks about, the baby hands and the baby controllers for babies. But if you really think about it, that actually is a selling point when you buy a console that comes with two controllers that fit perfectly into little hands. I mean, that's if I'm a parent and I'm getting my kid a console, and this one is only $300, comes with two controllers. I know I'm getting the Mario games. I know I'm getting the first party stuff. I'm not even thinking about any other consoles. I'm picking this up. The reason I get it for myself. That's another thing. I love everything about it. It's versatile. I can play it around my house. I can take it in the backyard if I want to. I can stop playing, pick it right back up where I left off. If I got 10 minutes to game, I just press a button, unlock it, maybe get through a shrine in Zelda, or do one race of a cup in Mario Kart, and then I can turn that thing right off, put it down next to me, take care of some business, and then pick it up again, do another 15-minute stint, and it's there's just limitless possibilities that they've kind of created for themselves here with the Switch. And I think this is what the Wii U was supposed to be. I think when they drew that thing up, it was supposed to give people the feeling that this console gives people. I think everything about it is pretty spot on, except my only con that I would say that I think they're going to fix with future releases and new updated versions of the Switch, kind of like how they updated the 3DS with the new Nintendo 3DS and 3DS XL, yada yada. The internal storage is very minimal. You only get about 25 gigs of internal storage available to you when you purchase a Switch. And I decided that I wanted my physical games to be third-party games, and I want to download and keep all my first-party Nintendo games on the system itself, because those will be getting the most playtime. And so, in downloading Zelda and Mario Kart, if I didn't have my extra SD card that I purchased, I would not have been able to store that on the system itself because it would have ran out of room. I got snipper clips, I got Playground, Zelda, and Mario Kart on there, and the snip clip, and it's all that together eats up about 30 gigs, and currently, I mean, I only had 25 available on board, so that is insufficient, and I hope they release future models of this thing that comes with at least 200 gigs. I mean, you could get a 200 gig SD card for somewhere around $70. So jack the price up by 50 more bucks, put bigger internal storage in there, or wait until the technology dates a little bit and keep the price the same and give people more internal storage. And I think that that'll make a lot of difference when it comes to the way people are purchasing games and that. So.
Yeah, I'm on the same side as Matt on this one. That I just have no reason for it right now. Like the Zelda, I have a Wii U, I could play it on Wii U. Mario Kart 8, I have a Wii U, I could play that on Wii U. So I just Switch Mario Kart 8 is a little bit better, but it's basically the same thing. And I just have no reason until those third parties start making those games that they said they were going to make. Like when the Switch was first announced, all these third parties like, yeah, we'll put games on like Bethesda did, and all these other From Software even did. The creators of Dark Souls and Bloodborne, they even said they'd put something out on the Switch. I doubt that highly that they would, but they said they would, and all these other developers, and that's what I need to see. Or I need to see Bayonetta 3, and then I'm in.
Bayonetta 3, well, Nintendo has not released a lot of, they've been pretty under the cuff about a lot of stuff, especially releases that are coming up. But in E3, I mean, don't even get me going on Nintendo not putting on a show at E3 because I think that's a mistake. But they did make a statement saying that you will see all of their major first-party brands make an appearance on the Switch in their own unique games. So Zelda is going to get another game on the Switch before its life cycle's up, which, I mean,
so, like, that
at their development rate, it's going to be 5 years down the road. It's going to be 10
years later.
But it's going to have, they're going to get a new Zelda. You're going to see Mario Odyssey, which is a fantastic looking Mario game in the same line of thinking as like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. So getting away from linear and going back to that open world. You've got Smash Brothers that they're going to release some form of. That's a guarantee.
That's a big question right there. Are they going to just re-release Smash Bros for Wii U, or are they going to make a new one like they did with Mario Kart? I'm curious on that one.
Well, let me ask you guys: would you pick up a version of Smash Brothers where, just like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I know you guys, neither of you, bought all the DLC, or in your case, Connor, owned Smash Brothers? Would you be willing, if you had a Switch, to pay retail price for every piece of DLC, and that includes the 8, 10 or so characters that they released, in addition to all the maps that came with them? Is that something that you would pay?
If I owned a Switch and I didn't have a Wii U anymore or Smash Bros., yeah, it's an easy purchase like people did with Mario Kart. I mean, it makes perfect sense for them to be re-releasing these games, but just right now, I just don't see it making sense for me to buy a Switch. But speaking of E3, you mentioned Nintendo status, not showing up to E3 or whatever they're doing, but let's just quickly, Halo not coming to E3. That's a big hit. As a big Halo fan and myself, I'm not as upset as you think I would be. I mean, I love Halo, but I'm good for now, so it's not a huge hit for me. I know Dave was pretty upset. Matt, you just traded in your Xbox One, so what do you care?
I did.
Oh, that's gone? I didn't even know that.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's gone.
it's gone. That and the Vita, the
Oh
same
man,
same
so
transaction.
Scorpio's on the way into the Matt household here. So he'll be hitting us up on Xbox Live literally at the end of the year. Like, guys, 4K. I'm playing this game in 4K right now.
Halo 5.
No, Halo's a big mistake. Not showing off Halo at E3. Are they nuts? Like, I'm not really seeing the sense in this. You've got this brand. You showed off Halo Wars 2 last year. That game's since been released. Everybody wants Halo 6. They've already given little teasers of, yeah, we're going to have split screen. Yeah, we're going to listen to people. So show us something. I don't even care if it's a trailer, the worst trailer in the world. Show me Master Chief sitting in a chair thinking about his previous journeys and then standing up to like some unknown landscape, and I'll take that. Give me something.
Yeah, I think Microsoft. It hurts Microsoft because we always talk about how Microsoft doesn't have the exclusives to match up against like Nintendo or Sony, and I think for them to go into E3, which is one of the biggest conferences for video games all year, and not bring out one of their biggest franchises, I think that's a mistake for them.
And to what you're saying, the Xbox 360 back that Microsoft that was pushing the Xbox 360, they knew how to release first-party software. That's when you had, Gears of War at its strongest. You had Halo coming out. You had all their first-party stuff seemed to be clicking, and Xbox One has just been kind of like dry or sequels. And honestly, the reason that I have my Xbox One and I prefer it over my PS4 is, that's what my buddies have, and I still prefer having Xbox Live over PlayStation Network. But if you're asking me exclusives, I mean, even Sony might even have a one-up on Xbox here. I don't know.
I mean, it's funny too. Back, those Xbox 360 years when GTA was a Sony exclusive and Metal Gear was a Sony exclusive,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they went to Xbox, and you're like, "What? PlayStation? What are you doing? You're just losing all your big titles." And now Xbox One is just drowning with nothing. They have absolutely no first-party titles in the near future. But we'll talk about that another time. Let's close this thing out with a quick list, just our top 3 PS4 games. Matt, what's your number 3?
So my number 3 right now is Bloodborne, which we talked a little bit about earlier, in relation to Nioh. So Bloodborne, me and you obviously got to play that one together and enjoy the seamless co-op in that game compared to Nioh's kind of garbage co-op system. So
Garbage is being nice. Matt,
Yeah.
Dave, what's your number 3?
My number 3 was Diamond in the Rough. I was subscribing to PSN at one point, and Journey was one of the giveaway games.
No,
and
don't.
I have to go there. Journey, I know you guys have the stance of, how can Journey be this good? Journey's that good. I'm going to say it's number 3. Yeah, it's indie, but they are indeed dominating the lousy games that you guys pick. So Journey, number 3.
All right, my number 3, I was kind of on the fence. I was looking back at some games. I'm currently playing Nier Automata and Yakuza 0, and I'm like, one of these games is for sure going to crack my top 3. So I'm putting Nier Automata in my top 3 right now. I'm not finished with that game or anywhere close to it, but it's awesome. Matt, what's your number 2?
I got Persona 5, which I talked about earlier. Obviously, I haven't even come close to beating it yet, but I'm really enjoying it right now, and I love it right now. So I can't see it really falling.
Here comes the peanut gallery laughing at me again. I'm gonna go with the Order 1886. I know they called that game like a tech demo for graphics, but call me a nerd. I love all of it. I love the werewolves and the vampires and all that stuff. So Order 1886.
My number 2 is Uncharted 4, easily. I think that's easily the best Uncharted title so far in the series. Well, of the series, because that series is over, unless you count the new DLC coming out. But Uncharted 4 was just mind-blowingly good. And let's get to our number 1. Matt, what's your number 1?
My number 1 was your number 2, Uncharted 4.
Ooh.
I think not even a question for me. I absolutely love that game. Felt super immersed in it. Loved the story, loved the characters. And that was an easy number 1 for me.
Dave, can't wait to. Your list has been awesome so far. Let's finish this off with.
Well, my number 1 is clearly The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is the best game.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, hold on. talking about good exclusive titles. We're on PS4. Number one is The Last of Us, and it is worth noting that that game is a remaster. And even as a remaster, I'm putting that as number one, better than anything that the PS4 has to offer on the market, in the future announced, done. Wrap it up, Last of Us.
My number one clearly is Bloodborne. That game has rocked my world. Everything is put to the level of Bloodborne. Every time I play a game, I'm like, is this Bloodborne worthy? No. And then so it gets down a notch. Like Nioh. Nioh was at Bloodborne level when I first started playing it, but it's failed to even stay within striking distance of Bloodborne. But that's clearly the best PS4 game to date right now for me. So this was our first episode, the Phantom Menace episode of the LAN Partners podcast. LAN Partners.
Went well.
It was fun.
I agree, and I couldn't have asked for a better pair of partners to LAN with.
I couldn't agree more. All right, well, thanks for listening. As soon as we're done recording this, I'm gonna post this onto YouTube. So check us out on YouTube. I'm not a social media guy, but I'm going to attempt to make a Twitter and Facebook page, so we'll see how long that takes me. But LAN Partners, the LAN Partners. Thanks for listening.